Donald Trump stepped through the heavy steel doors of the Secret Service headquarters, his polished shoes clicking against the marble floor. The air inside was thick with tension, agents standing rigidly at attention as he passed. He had been here many times before, but today felt different. The usual murmur of chatter was absent, replaced by an eerie silence that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. Something was wrong. A man in a black suit with a glinting earpiece approached him briskly. His face was pale, his posture tense. "Mr. President, we need you to see something immediately." Trump furrowed his brow, lips pressing together. He had handled his fair share of crises, but the look in the agent's eyes told him this was unlike anything before. "Let's go," he said, his voice carrying the same authority that had defined his time in office. The agent nodded and turned swiftly, leading him down a long corridor lined with high-tech surveillance monitors. The screens displayed live footage from across the country, crowded rallies, government buildings, international embassies. Trump's sharp eyes scanned the images as he walked, but nothing stood out at first glance. Still, he felt an unease in the air, a silent dread settling in his gut. They reached a reinforced steel door at the corridor's end. The agent punched in a code, and the door slid open with a mechanical hiss. Inside, some of the most high-ranking intelligence officials in the country stood motionless, their faces drained of color as they stared at a massive digital map of the United States. Red warning signals blinked across multiple locations. A senior intelligence officer turned to Trump, his voice low and uncertain. "Sir, we have a situation." Trump crossed his arms. "What kind of situation?" The officer hesitated before pointing at one of the larger monitors. "It's you, sir." Trump narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean, me?" The officer pressed a button, and a grainy surveillance video appeared on the screen. The footage showed a man walking through a crowd waving to supporters. He wore a perfectly tailored suit, a bright red tie, and had unmistakable golden hair. His mannerisms, the way he gestured, the way he moved his hands while speaking, were identical to Trump's own. The room was silent, all eyes on him. Trump studied the footage, his expression unreadable. Then he let out a short chuckle. "All right, who's the wise guy? Some kind of deepfake? You know, they're getting real good with that AI stuff." The officer shook his head grimly. "No, sir. This isn't AI. It's real. We've confirmed it from multiple sources. That man is physically present, giving speeches, shaking hands, making appearances. And yet, you're standing right here." The weight of the statement settled over the room like a thick fog. Trump leaned in closer, his gaze locked onto the screen. The imposter had every detail down to perfection, even the way he slightly pursed his lips before speaking. It was uncanny. A younger agent standing near the back of the room spoke up hesitantly. "Sir, we believe this individual has access to classified information. He knows details only you would know." Trump turned, scanning the faces of the officials around him. "You're telling me there's another me out there?" The agent nodded. "Yes, sir, and the public believes he's you." A hushed murmur rippled through the room. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just a look-alike stirring controversy. This was something far worse. Trump exhaled deeply, straightened his tie, and glanced back at the footage. Clone, advanced disguise, a deep state experiment gone rogue? The possibilities ran through his mind, but one thing was certain. He wasn't going to let some fraud walk around pretending to be him. Cracking his knuckles, he turned back to the agents, his voice steady and determined. "All right," he said. "Let's find out who the hell he is." The room remained deathly silent as Trump's words hung in the air. The agents exchanged uneasy glances, waiting for someone to speak. Finally, the senior intelligence officer cleared his throat and stepped forward. "Sir," he began carefully, "we've been tracking his movements for the past 72 hours. He first appeared in Miami, then Atlanta, and now he's in Washington, D.C. Trump's expression darkened. "Washington?" "Yes, sir," the officer confirmed. He's scheduled to hold a press conference at the Capitol in less than an hour. Trump's jaw tightened. And you're telling me no one in the media has noticed that there are two of me? The officer hesitated. Not exactly, the media. They believe he's you, sir. He's acting like you, speaking like you. And most importantly, he has the presidential codes. A chill ran through the room. Trump took a step forward, his voice lower now, more deliberate. He has what? The nuclear football, sir. And your security clearance. We don't know how, but as far as the system is concerned, he's you. A cold weight settled in Trump's gut. This wasn't just some prank or political stunt. This was infiltration at the highest level. And if this imposter had access to nuclear launch codes, whoever was behind this wasn't playing games. Trump turned to the younger agent, the one who had spoken up earlier. Tell me everything you know about this guy. His habits, his movements, his schedule. The agent swallowed. He's been visiting key locations, Mar-a-Lago, Trump Tower, even your old campaign headquarters. He's making speeches that sound exactly like something you'd say. But there's something off. Trump raised an eyebrow. Off how? The agent hesitated before responding. It's subtle, but his wording is too precise, too calculated. He's not going off script the way you do. He's saying all the right things, but there's no improvisation, no real instinct. Almost like he's rehearsed. Trump smirked slightly despite the situation. Amateur, he muttered. Then his expression hardened. But that doesn't explain how he has my clearance. Another agent standing near a console suddenly spoke up. Sir, we ran a biometric analysis on the footage. His fingerprints, facial recognition, even his vocal patterns. Everything is a match. As far as every security system in the country is concerned, this man isn't just pretending to be you. He is you. The room fell into stunned silence once more. Trump rubbed his chin, his mind racing. Clone? No, that was crazy. Deepfake AI couldn't replicate someone in real life. But if they had access to his DNA, if they somehow created a perfect double, he shook his head. It didn't matter. I want a direct line to the Pentagon, the NSA, and the FBI, he ordered. We're shutting this down now. The intelligence officer hesitated. Sir, there's a problem. Trump glared at him. Spit it out. The Pentagon just received a direct order. From you. Trump felt his pulse quicken. What order? The officer swallowed. To stand down. Any attempt to interfere with his movements will be considered an act of treason against the United States government. Trump clenched his fists. And they listened? The officer hesitated. Sir, he authenticated the order with your security clearance, your voice print, and your signature. As far as the chain of command is concerned, you already gave the order. A slow, simmering rage built in Trump's chest. He took a deep breath, then turned back to the room. All right, if I can't stop this through official channels, we do it my way. The agents looked at each other uncertainly. Trump cracked his knuckles. We find this bastard, and we end this. The agents hesitated, unsure of what Trump meant by end this, but the steel in his voice made it clear. This wasn't up for debate. The senior intelligence officer stepped forward cautiously. Sir, if we're going to move on this, we need a plan. Right now, the moment you step outside and someone records you, the world will know something's wrong. We need to contain this before the media picks up on it. Trump exhaled through his nose, considering. If word got out, the chaos would be unimaginable. His supporters would rally in the streets, the media would go into a frenzy, and Washington would descend into a state of confusion. Worse, if this imposter had access to his security clearance, who knew what kind of orders he could issue next. He turned to the younger agent. You're the one paying attention to his movements. Tell me, where's he staying? The agent checked his tablet. The Hay Adams Hotel. He's booked the presidential suite. Secret Service has been ordered to secure the entire floor. Trump smirked. My Secret Service? The agent nodded. Yes, sir. Trump's smirk faded. If his own detail had been compromised, this was deeper than he thought. The loyalty of his agents was legendary. But if they believed the imposter was the real deal, then they'd follow orders without question. He turned back to the group. All right, listen up. We're going in quiet. No agencies, no official reports. We do this off the books. We get in, grab this son of a bitch, and figure out what the hell is going on. The senior officer looked uneasy. Sir, if he has full clearance, he might have anticipated this move. He could be expecting us. Trump cracked his knuckles. Then we don't give him time to think. The agents exchanged glances. They knew what he was asking. An unsanctioned, off-the-record operation against a target that the entire government believed to be the sitting president. But there was no hesitation. Whatever was happening, they had sworn an oath to protect the country. Trump turned to a small group of hand-picked agents. I want a car waiting in the basement garage. No motorcade, no sirens. We take side streets. Keep a low profile, understood? A chorus of, yes sir, followed. The team quickly sprang into action. Within minutes, Trump was in the back of a black SUV, speeding through the dark streets of Washington, the city lights flickering outside. The tension inside the vehicle was thick. Sir, one of the agents said from the front seat, if this guy is a perfect copy of you, he might know we're coming. Trump stared out the window, his mind racing. Then we hit him first. The Hay Adams Hotel, 11:47 p.m. The SUV pulled into a quiet service entrance behind the hotel. The street was empty, the city unaware that something impossible was happening behind closed doors. Trump and his team moved quickly. They bypassed security using an alternate staff entrance, moving through the hotel's back corridors. A silent elevator ride took them to the top floor. The doors slid open with a quiet chime, revealing a dimly lit hallway. At the far end, 2 Secret Service agents stood guard outside the presidential suite. Trump turned to his team. Stay sharp. Follow my lead. He strode forward with confidence, his posture perfect. As they approached, one of the agents outside the door straightened. Sir, we weren't expecting you. Trump gave a casual nod. Change of plans. Need to see myself immediately. The agent hesitated, then pressed his earpiece and copy that, he's here. A long pause. Then the door handle turned. The door swung open, revealing the imposter standing in the doorway. Trump's breath caught for a fraction of a second. It was him, not a lookalike, not an actor, not some cheap disguise. The man in front of him had his face, his posture, his presence, and worst of all, his smirk. The imposter folded his arms, leaning casually against the doorframe. Well, he said, his voice eerily identical. This is awkward. Here's the next part of your story, keeping the tension high. For a split second, neither man moved. The hallway was silent except for the faint hum of the hotel's ventilation system. Trump stared into his own eyes, studying the imposter's every move. The way he stood, the way his fingers tapped idly against his forearm, it was too perfect, too calculated. Trump narrowed his eyes. I don't know who you are, but you've got exactly 5 seconds to start talking before this gets ugly. The imposter grinned, stepping aside and gesturing toward the luxurious suite behind him. Why don't you come in? No need to cause a scene in the hallway. Unless, of course, you want your men to take me down right here. But that might be hard to explain, don't you think? Trump hesitated. He didn't like it. But he also knew he wasn't going to get answers by standing in a hotel corridor. With a glance to his agents, he gave a slight nod. They stayed on alert. As he stepped into the suite, the door clicking shut behind him. The room was lavish, the kind of place only the most powerful people in the world could afford. A fireplace crackled in the corner, and a half-finished glass of Diet Coke sat on the marble coffee table. Trump's jaw tightened. He didn't like what he was seeing. The imposter strolled over to a leather chair and sat down, crossing one leg, over the other like he owned the place. You know, he mused, I was wondering when you'd show up. Took you longer than I expected. Trump didn't sit. He loomed over the imposter, arms crossed. Who are you? The imposter exhaled, shaking his head. That's the question, isn't it? Who am I? Who are you? What does it even mean to be Donald J. Trump? He smirked. Philosophical stuff. Trump clenched his fists. Cut the crap. The imposter leaned forward, his expression turning serious. All right, I'll tell you what I know. He gestured toward the couch across from him. But you might want to sit down for this. Trump didn't move. The imposter sighed. Fine. Here's the short version. I don't remember where I came from. I don't remember anything before a few weeks ago. But when I woke up, I was you. Every memory, every instinct, every detail. My body, my voice, even my thoughts. Everything told me I was Donald Trump. Trump's stomach twisted. That's impossible. The imposter shrugged. You tell me, because I have your codes. I have your clearance. The government, the military, everyone recognizes me as you. He grinned again. Except you, of course. Trump's mind raced. This wasn't just an impersonator. This was something else entirely. A clone? A biological experiment? Some deep-state insanity he hadn't been briefed on? He took a step closer, his voice low. You've been giving speeches, meeting world leaders, holding press conferences. Why? The imposter tilted his head. Why do you do it? Trump scowled. The imposter leaned back, arms resting on the chair. I'm doing what I was made to do. Lead, speak, be Donald Trump. And I have to admit, I'm doing a damn good job. Trump's hands clenched at his sides. You're not me. The imposter smiled. Maybe not, but the world thinks I am. And as long as they believe it, does it really matter? Something inside Trump snapped. With lightning speed, he lunged forward and grabbed the imposter by the collar, yanking him out of the chair. The smirk vanished as Trump slammed him against the wall, their faces inches apart. Listen to me, pal, Trump growled. I don't care where you came from. I don't care what sick experiment made you, but I built this name, this legacy with my own two hands, and no cheap knockoff is going to take it from me. For the first time, the imposter's confidence wavered. His hands gripped Trump's wrists, but he didn't struggle. Then, he smiled again. That's what I wanted to hear. Before Trump could react, the imposter twisted free with unnatural speed, shoving him backward. Trump stumbled but caught himself, his instincts kicking in. The imposter straightened his suit, adjusting his red tie. You passed the test, he said simply. Trump frowned. Test? The imposter nodded. I needed to know if you were still you, if you still had the fire. He stepped closer. And you do. That's good. Trump's pulse pounded. What the hell are you talking about? The imposter glanced at the clock on the wall. We don't have much time. They're already watching. But I'll tell you this. There's more of me. More of us. And if we don't stop them, neither of us will exist for much longer. Trump's blood ran cold. The imposter extended a hand. For now, you're going to have to trust me. Trump looked at the outstretched hand, then back at the man who was, somehow, him. And for the first time in his life, he didn't know what to do.